What's going on, y'all? Jordan, another episode of Lightning Latest. Really excited to get this one out to you guys today. Got a few things we're going to talk about. First off, though, right, we've been talking about the last few weeks the preseason matchups. Specifically, though, the one I want to discuss today is the Panthers one, right? We're playing them for 3 games. So it should be interesting to see just how well we stack up against the back-to-back Stanley Cup champs. I know we all hate hearing that term, but unfortunately that's what they are. And in order to get back to the Stanley Cup final, chances are we're going to have to beat them. All right, so both teams should look pretty close to how they're going to look in the regular season if I had to take a smack at it. It is really intriguing to see a 3-game set because, during the regular season, you're not going to see that. You might see 2 in a row, but it's very rare. I mean, I can't think of a time where they've been 3 games in a row. So, this should be fun to watch. Both teams do not like each other, obviously. Big in-state rivalry, heated up, especially the last few years with the success of both franchises. So, it's going to be interesting to see just how Coop lines up these lines, right? You're going to be looking at it. Is he going to want to give them an actual look and see? I mean, it's pretty fluid at the moment because we haven't been through training camp yet, so there's still a lot that could happen. However, 2 players I'm really looking forward to seeing where they're placed: Connor Geeky and JJ Moser. JJ Moser we've talked about, right, a couple times over the last few days. He's going to be an important piece for the Bolts moving forward. How important is up to him, right? If he can take that next step, then great. During preseason, it'll be interesting to see just how much Coop trusts him on different assignments. He's a young guy. He's going to be 25, and he was the biggest part of that Sergachev trade, right? So we need him to step up. Meanwhile, Connor Geeky, right, top prospects, looking forward to big things for him this season as well. We're going to discuss him more in the next few days. I'm really excited to deep dive into him. Might need to even buy a jersey for him. But let's leave it here nor there. I just want to see if he can bring that scoring punch he's brought throughout the minors, right? And he's shown glimpses of it. I know he can. I think he's going to take that next step this year. I think this is the next big Bolts star we have. I'm really excited for him. Plus, his name is just awesome. So, we'll see where he's at. Probably the 3rd or 4th lines to start off with, much like Moser as well. Moser will probably be on the 3rd line. But you never know, right? It depends on how they do in camp. And if Coop places enough trust in them early on. So I'm really stoked to dive into that. But because we're talking about lineups, we're actually going to start talking about over the next few days each position. So, we're going to discuss goalie, forwards, defensemen, and, wingers, everything else. We're going to discuss it all because we need to know exactly just how deep this team is. There are still some free agents out there that they can go and address. We're going to be discussing that over the next few days as well. There's trade targets. There's just so much where Brevoy could probably work around the margins and make this team better. The biggest issue we've discussed is depth. And it's looking better in some spots. Not going to lie. Like we talked about a couple days ago, losing Perbix, that's the biggest piece we lost. And I think, a couple of years of what he got, it's not the end of the world. There's a variety of smaller positional battles that we're going to break down in East Division group as we move closer, except really goalie, which we'll be discussing tomorrow. But at the same time, it is important to know just how deep we are at certain positions, right? Over the last few days, I discussed why Jake Allen would have been a good fit, why Bob possibly could have been a fit. We're going to be discussing more goaltenders as well. Because remember, Vassey's only got a couple years left on his deal. So it's going to be interesting to see just how much he'll be offered. And it's possible that he could not come back. We're not gonna put that in the universe though. So don't worry about that. But we're gonna be discussing another one of our young guns that we've covered over the last few days, and that's gonna be Gage Concalves, right? We talked about a little bit ago, just a few minutes ago, how the lines are gonna look in the preseason. I think in order to prove that this new bridge contract's worth it, that he's developing, Coop needs to start giving him more responsibilities. Let's see if he can lead that 3rd line, right? It would be interesting because of the new deal he got, right? Only 2 years, $1.2 million. It's not a lot, but it's enough to give him a boost to see what he's made of. We have all these young guys still coming through the system like Geeky and Moser behind him as well. We have to see just if they can handle an increased load. Now that Goncalves is under contract for the next couple of years, it's imperative to see if it's worth it, right? Because next offseason we'll probably be doing the same for JJ Moser. There's other restricted free agents out there. Connor Bedard. Which we may or might not talk about at some point. There's just so much that we could do to be better. If Goncalves steps up, right? If he can run that third line, that allows them to maneuver a few other pieces around. Maybe Yanni Gourde could be on the fourth line, which is perfectly fine because remember, he's done his best work by leading those lower lines, right? So, if we want to see what we have in Goncalves, we have to try and have him step up. If he doesn't step up, then maybe the next 2 years are just not worth it, and he'll need to go elsewhere. But if he does, then contract extensions, a bunch of other things can be had. He needs to show improvement this season. 20 points, 60 games, that's decent. It needs to be better in 2025, 2026. If it is better, then there's a very good chance that the Bolts can make a good run. Because remember, this is what we talked about, right? The depth over the last few days has just been awful. Last couple seasons, not a few days. The depth's been terrible. It has to be improved. In order to win a Stanley Cup, the Panthers are shown right then and there what they have. They're so deep. It's just like us in 2020 and 2021. There's just stars and role players everywhere you look, people that are willing to risk themselves to win a Stanley Cup. We have a lot of those players. But are these young players like Goncalves, like JJ Moser, are they that kind of player? If they're not, then maybe it's not worth bringing them on those bridge deals. Maybe it's worth letting them leave. Like perfect example, when we signed Jacob Pelletier, that's what happened. Philadelphia saw half a season of him and said, we're okay. As y'all know, I'm a fan of his. We're going to also talk about him in the next few days as well. But there's still so much that has to be done. And if Goncalves can prove that he can lead this third line, that next contract's probably going to look a lot better and a lot longer. But we are going to continue with our what ifs. We're starting restricted free agents today. Connor Bedard. So, Connor Bedard as a Bolt. Could you imagine? It's highly unlikely. Let's just go ahead and start there. It's highly unlikely. However, anything is possible, right? This cap is going up. It's going to be over $100 million next year, projected. It's going to be even more than that in 2026, 2027. It's even more than that in 2027, 2028. So, the Bolts have maneuverability and room to make some moves and make some adjustments to add to a team that knows that they can win a Stanley Cup. They can. If they have the right pieces, we've seen it many times before. It's easily within reach. Improving the depth is one thing. Apparently, they've done that to some extent with Pelletier and Holmberg, and they're re-signing Goncalves, which is great, and re-signing Gourde. But there's more out there. There's more that's needed. And if this season doesn't go the way a lot of people hope it's going to go, then bringing in a player like Connor Bedard might be the way to go, right? We brought in Gunsel last offseason to replace Stamkos, and we have Point as our one center, right? He's the top line guy. We have Cirelli, we have Gourde, we have Goncalves, we have all these other pieces. But if we had another star-like center to go along with Braden Point, I feel like it would unlock this franchise even more. He's the current Blackhawks franchise player. They're building around him. That is the goal. However, there's still not a new contract done. Now, could it be done tomorrow? Yeah. Could it be done in a week? Sure. Could it be done in a month? Absolutely. But it's still not there. So, Bedard as a Bolt, as unlikely as it sounds, it is highly possible, right? Playing under Coop would also help him tremendously, right? Coop's one of the best coaches in the league. There's a reason why so many players have become stars under him, because he knows how to develop. He worked his way up through the minors. He knows what it takes to get these players to the next step. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes it does. And that's great when it does. Connor Bedard has already shown he can do that. Connor Bedard has shown he can be a superstar. The question is, How much would it cost? Obviously, right? How long would it take? Well, he's already pretty young. He's still growing into the hype he received as the number one pick. But he's already one of the best in the NHL at his position. That's why I'm pretty sure that Chicago won't let him go. Nevertheless, it is a conversation worth having because he would strengthen this offense so much. It would be ridiculous. And it would be so much fun to watch. Like, could you imagine this lineup with Point as the first center, Bedard right behind him, leading the second line, Cirelli on the third line, and then Cage Konkavas is the fourth line. But no, it could be Konkavas, it could be Gord. In this scenario, it would just be fun because there'd be so many offensive pieces that Coop and his coaching staff could maneuver and utilize. It'd be tough to stop. That's the latest episode with Lightning Latest. I'm Jordan. Tomorrow we're going to be discussing more of our opening night opponents, the Ottawa Senators. We're going to be talking about them over the next few days, as well as deep diving into these positions with goaltending. We're also going to continue our restricted what ifs. We got quite a few of those. And we're going to talk about my dude Jacob Pelletier, which I'm really, really excited about. This is Jordan with Lightning Latest. We got more coming tomorrow and the rest of the week. Really excited to continue this with you guys. And we'll go ahead and we'll talk soon. See you later.